So here we are at 31. So here you've got the Hamilton's, can I call it theories? I always, I'd like to almost think of them as laws. You know, there's a point, isn't it, where the theory becomes the law? Anyway, you have this insight around the plateau, and what I'm seeing here is that experimentally you've been able to find ways of bringing this plateau into earlier and earlier points along the life cycle.
Actually, you're getting way ahead of me here.
Oh,
Rob.
Sorry.
Probably the question I'm answering in 31 is, given that the forces of natural selection plateau, so that on a crude verbal interpretation, we could imagine the possibility that aging stops. Just as in a crude verbal formulation from E equals mc squared, you could think, wow, if I could ever convert mass into energy, I'd have a whole lot of energy. The question then is, well, how would that really work?
Okay. So this is the design of the bomb. So this is taking Einstein and some other people's thoughts and forming the Manhattan Project. How are we going to actually get all this energy to come out of this very small thing?
Actually, it's a specific moment in the history of physics when Leo Szilard stepped off a corner in Bloomsbury Square near the Bloomsbury Hotel, not far from where Charles Darwin lived in the 19th century, and he had the first basic idea of how that could work, well before the Manhattan Project. Basically, he conceived of an autocatalytic fission process, which is what the early atomic bombs were. They were fission bombs. So in the same way, the question is, well, if you can sort of imagine in a crude, intuitive way that the plateauing and the forces of natural selection could let aging come to a stop, how would that really work in an evolutionary genetic sense? And all of this stuff is stuff that started to basically be developed just in the last years of the 20th century. And some of the work was done by Larry Muller, my very good colleague at UC Irvine, and some of the work was done by Brian Charlesworth. And I focus in on Charlesworth's result that he published in 2001 in the Journal of Theoretical Biology, which is that if you have an age-independent benefit favored by natural selection, that could, in effect, sustain survival and reproduction during the plateau phase of the forces of natural selection. The forces of natural selection at those late ages won't specifically build you health or sustained reproduction. But at the same time, because they've gone to zero, they won't actively curtail whatever benefits you have derived, you meaning the population, from natural selection in favor of genetic changes which have benefits at every age. That is the sort of part of the genetic substratum for how you can actually get the cessation of aging with still some possibility of surviving.
So simplistically, Rob, like if various things can happen to me to bring this plateau earlier, and I've looked after myself in a reasonable way, I could have a pretty healthy continuation of life out for a long time.
Right. So in 31, I'm saying that we now realize that evolution will let you do things like that.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay.
And the question then, really, the key question is, what are those times? What are the times that are the sometimes?
Okay.
And that's the excitement as we get toward the end of the 55.
Right. So we'll hold that
out
the
circumstances?
as the secrets that have to be solved later. Okay.